We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180. Our guest by phone, Stephen Moore, the senior economist for the Wall Street Journal and Fox commentator.
Steve, we were going to ask you a little bit about the Ryan budget to see what you felt about. Will that ever pass? Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the House. It's interesting because the president's budget a couple of weeks ago was also brought to a vote in the House, and amazingly, it got 0 votes. Not even Nancy Pelosi would vote for the president's budget. That's how liberal it was. So,
can you believe that?
And Paul Ryan's budget did pass through the House. Now we're in the Senate, which is the graveyard of legislation, where basically nothing ever sees the light of day, and they waste time on things like the Buffett rule. And there's no budget in the Senate. So. They can't pass anything out of the Senate, let alone Paul Ryan's budget, and that's the state of play. And I think all of these budget decisions are being deferred until we see what happens with the election returns. And I think if Obama's reelected, then we will get those big tax increases we talked about. He's made it known that he does want to raise taxes on the rich. He wants to make investment taxes higher. Mitt Romney would probably talk about really restructuring the tax system. I don't believe, by the way, that I think, everything is coming, the Titanic is going to hit the iceberg in 2013 with this tax code. We got the AMT issue, we got the expiration of the Bush tax cuts, we got this whole issue of the Buffett rule, all of these things coming all at once. We've got a corporate tax system that is an abomination. I think it's time to just tear the whole tax system out and start completely over with something that's much simpler, much fairer, flatter rates, no loopholes. That's the solution to our tax fiasco.
Do you like the flat tax?
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge proponent of I think that's a silver bullet for the economy. If we could, imagine how fast our economy would grow if you had a 19% flat rate income tax, no double tax on saving and investment, so that instead of the capital gains tax going to 30%, it would go to 0, because, we don't want to double tax saving and investment. That's the basic principle of tax reform. You would see the biggest boom in this country you ever saw. You think we would have more jobs than we have workers.
Yeah, because right now you've got so much cash sitting on the sidelines because, they don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I think that's right, and I think that uncertainty, and Washington has created this wet blanket of uncertainty that is being hoisted above the business community, and nobody wants to invest until they can figure out what the tax system is going to look like. And by the way, isn't this an example of what's wrong with Washington? That everybody is frozen in place, that the kind of economic investment decisions and new businesses that should be created this year, they're all being held off until 2013, until we know what's going to happen with the economy, what's going to happen with the election. That's the problem with Washington. Washington is so involved in the economy, it's become a restraint on growth.
Are they really involved in it?
Well, they're involved in restraining it, yeah.
Yeah, they're involved in restraining economy, restraining growth. That's what I see.
Oh, yeah. Almost everything that the government has done in the last few years has really been a restraint on growth. Everything from not building the Keystone Pipeline to the big, tax bubble that we're facing, to, all sorts of regulations at the EPA. It's all oriented actually towards slowing down growth.
We have the same problem here in California. I was just in Sacramento last week, and even if Obamacare is overturned, as an example, California is going to move forward with their single-payer program.
Unbelievable. And by the way, you also passed cap and trade.
Yeah.
This is the most insane policy for a state to actually put essentially what you've done is you've put a tariff in California on your own goods and services. It's the nuttiest thing I've ever heard of. No matter what your position is on global warming, I think global warming is a hoax. But even if you think it's a big ecological crisis, one state doing something about global warming isn't going to solve the problem of a warming global temperature.
0.7% of the temperature could be helped with global warming if the state of California did everything they say they're going to do, which I don't believe.
And I don't even believe that.
I don't either.
I think that number is way overstated.
Yeah. It's 0.007. Excuse me.
Yeah, crazy.
Right.
Steve, do you think Romney has a chance?
Oh yeah, I think this election right now is a coin flip. Mm-hmm. I think it's a 50-50 proposition. And what the whole election is going to be fought over is this whole issue about whether we're going to have growth or we're going to have fairness. and those are two very conflicting ideas. If you're totally focused and obsessed with, quote, fairness, I mean, you can create fairness by just, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but then, over time you turn into Cambodia, right? And the real question is, will Americans go for growth policies that make everybody better off? I happen to think in the 80s, 90s, we had incredible growth policies that really led to an expansion that didn't just make, people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs rich, but it made the whole country rich. And by the way, those sirens you just heard is the president's motorcade going by me as I sit in my office.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Is he going on another vacation?
I don't know, but it was interesting. My office is right on K Street in Washington, so we have those motorcades go by all the time.
Oh, that's great. We're having a conversation with Steve Moore from the Wall Street Journal.
Steve, if this guy is reelected, I just don't see how we can survive with 4 more years of Obama. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to be that apocalyptic. I mean, the power of a free market system and the power and the durability of our businesses to be able to grow even when government's doing everything it can to try to restrain it, it's really amazing, and it's a testament to the people who make this economy grow, which is small businessmen and women around the country who set up their own shingle and work, on the dust to try to make that business work. And one of the problems I have with President Obama, quite frankly, is and I like the man personally, I just agree with his policies. I don't think he really understands the first step, anything about starting a business, how to meet a payroll, how to make the business prosperous. I mean, how would he? He's never started a business. In fact, you could make the case he never even worked for a business.
And how to fight government when you're trying to run your business.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's the biggest problem we have. I had lunch with a couple of guys the other day. They think Obama's doing a fantastic job. They think the stimulus was the best thing that ever happened. Bailing out the car companies was wonderful. I can't believe where these people are coming from.
Well, look, I mean, the stimulus, I think you just look at the statistics that the predictions that President Obama and Christina Romer and some of his economists made. They were the ones, if we said that we had this enormous $800 billion stimulus, that we'd have less than 8% employment. They actually said by now we'd have 6% unemployment. They said we'd create 3 to 4 million jobs. We're still 5 million jobs short of where we were in 2007. The stimulus, in my opinion, has been the most expensive policy flop in American history. And the tragedy of the stimulus, what I'd like you to ask your friends is, how do you justify the fact that our children, our children's children, and our children's grandchildren are going to have to pay for this enormous spending splurge by Barack Obama? I mean, how is that fair?
And that's before we even add on Obamacare, which is going to be a total disaster starting next year.
Yeah, Obamacare, I mean, I've got my fingers crossed. I think we've got a good chance of having that repealed by the courts. I think they're going to say that it is unconstitutional to have a individual mandate. I know you talked to my friend Sally Pipes on this a few weeks ago. Sally's right on. She's exactly right on the economics. And what's really exciting is if you listen to the oral arguments before the Supreme Court a couple of weeks ago, I'm more and more convinced the court is very skeptical of this huge power grab by the United States government. If they allow Obamacare to go through, they're basically saying that the federal government has unlimited authority to regulate every aspect of Americans' lives.
Well, Sally wrote her most recent book is 10 Ways to Defeat Obamacare. I explained to her the other day there was really 9 ways we could do it. It's called the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Well, and we only need 5 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my guess...
That's probably going to be a 5-4 decision, and I think more and more, I've always said that the most powerful man in America today is not Barack Obama, it's not Ben Bernanke, although he's up there. I think it's probably Justice Kennedy, who's the swing vote on the court. We have 4 liberals, 4 conservatives, and I think that my prediction I'll make here and now on your show is I think that Kennedy is going to go the right way on this. They are going to throw out the individual mandate requiring individuals to buy health insurance, which is, in my opinion, clearly unconstitutional, and that will cause the unraveling of the entire Obamacare law.
Stephen, I have to tell you, I made the exact same prediction about 2 weeks ago. Kennedy's...
All right, well, great minds think alike, and I just think, if you'd asked me this question 2 or 3 weeks ago, I wasn't so confident, but when I heard the arguments that people like Justice Kennedy were making, It's clear they understood the issue. And by the way, the Obama Solicitor General was just a disaster for the Obama. I mean, he acted totally unprepared. He was not able to answer the questions about how this is constitutional. And this will be a landmark decision, not just because it will overturn Obamacare, but it will reassert the rights of you and I and everyone listening to this show that there are guardrails against runaway government, thank God, and that the Constitution still holds force, which is, as you know, it's a rule book about what are the powers of our government.
Exactly. And, and it's funny, when I was listening to the oral arguments and I was listening to Kennedy's questions, just by the tone of his questions and what he was asking, I thought, oh, this is fantastic. This is 5-4. I mean, I think...
Yeah. Nancy says it's 6-3.
I'll take 5-4, and I agree with you. I think that that'll be a landmark decision, and it'll be something that, as I said, will reassert the rights of the individual against the state. And it's been a long time coming, so let's keep our fingers crossed on that. And look, if we get a good election outcome, I think, as I said before, I'm really bullish if you get, a regime change in Washington, because there is so much money parked on the sideline that is being ready to be re-injected in this economy to grow new businesses, to expand the businesses we have. We haven't built any housing in this country in 4 years.
Yeah.
If you get a pro-growth administration in there, you're going to get a revival of the housing market.
Yeah, definitely. Steve, we would love to have you back before the election.
And after.
And after.
You got it, guys. Anytime. It's been fun being with you. The problem we've got is California is such a anchor on the U.S. economy right now. You guys have to do something to straighten out the policies of Sacramento, because it's hard for the U.S. economy to grow if California isn't growing. And California is a catastrophe. You have the most liberal legislature in North America.
No question about it. Steve, we'll have you back, though, definitely, okay?
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. Bye.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.